Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from Delta CX, and it is time for another fantastic podcast. I think this is episode 93. If I have that wrong, I am so sorry. I think it's nap time for all of us. But today we're going to be talking about conversion rate optimization. You're saying, what's that? And I'm saying, I'm so glad you asked because we have someone here who can answer that. So let's welcome in friend of the show and birthday girl, Shannon Kelly. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Good to have you on after seeing you so often in the chat room. So
Like,
just
who's the stalker?
no, not at all. Our low ego action heroes are not stalkers. While I get all of my screens ready to capture everybody's comments and questions, please introduce yourself and tell us who the heck you are.
Okay. Hello, I'm Shannon Kelly. I am, technically, my title is wrong. I am a UI designer 2 at Overdrive here in Cleveland, Ohio. I have been basically a designer my whole career. I started out with a bachelor's in science out of college in web design and interactive media design. From there, my career evolved from uh, graphic design, visual design, and then we slowly landed into CRO, and now I'm kind of in the UX realm. So I like to share my CRO knowledge with newly learned UX knowledge that I've been doing the last couple of years. Um, yeah, that's pretty much a little bit about me. Not too detailed, but enough to give you a little bit of a background of my journey, my knowledge. I do come from that design background, which I know a lot of people don't. So, or a lot of people do too. So, I like to give that perspective of coming from a design background of not using data to loving data. So,
Excellent. Okay, so for those who are unfamiliar with the term CRO, conversion rate optimization, can you tell us what the heck that is?
sure. So I can kind of explain it in the sense of where I went with my career. Being a visual designer at my last job, I was working at an agency and I was designing landing pages and web pages and other things for the web, and was kind of getting burnt out on just doing things because people wanted them done, and making decisions, design decisions based on no knowledge whatsoever. And so we had a small UX CRO team. And on that team, I learned that you can use data to make design decisions. And because marketing agency, um, you use that type of data to try to get to your company's or your clients' KPIs and get their goals, their business goals. So you use different marketing to try to increase your conversion rates, which I can kind of explain that too. Conversion rates are usually defined by how many conversions or how many goal completions you want somebody to do, and then you times that by 100. Regardless, it's just a conversion rate that you want to increase. So, based on the number of visitors you have coming to your site, or that one.
Can you still hear me? I think I had a little internet blip.
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, great, thanks. Sorry, we had a little internet overload. Hey, sorry everybody. I am having an internet blip. I hope that we are back. Let's see if we can get Shannon back. Am I still live? That's a good question. Yes. Let's see. LinkedIn usually gives up on me at that point, but am I live? Let's check YouTube. People in the chat room, can you still see or hear us? Are we still live? Oh, sounds like you're back.
Okay. Are we good?
I'm trying to see if we are still online. I have to admit, I think it's me. I think it was me. Chat room, are we back? Can you hear us? I am sorry about that blip. That was totally my fault. I had a system overload and I had a bunch of apps crash. And of course, those apps were important for the stream, and then they were gone. So I apologize. That was me having a bit of an overload moment. Let's see if we are still streaming. Somebody from the chat room, tell us if we're alive. Where's my chatters? What? Boyfriend says what? Boyfriend says yes. Okay. It looks like we are back. Shannon, I'm so sorry. That was my fault. People listening on the audio podcast, that I will have to edit that. So let's try to go back to where we were. And apologies. Yeah, totally my fault. I am so sorry. So what a birthday present for you. So I was going to say, so with respect to conversion rate, I often think of that as very e-commercey. Like, did people buy stuff? Did they turn from shoppers to buyers? Are there some other good examples that will help people really understand conversion rate and what it means to convert?
Yeah, sure. So I say in conversion rate optimization, there's a lot of testing that can be done. Like to do A/B test or split test within conversion rate optimization. You're trying to figure out the best version of your page or site that you can to get people to go through that funnel. Some of those examples are simple things like just doing headlines or body copy, image page. It can be a button color or button text. A lot of what I did at the agency was optimizing forms. I mean, you're talking about like, do more form fields convert, do less form fields convert, depending on what kind of information you need to have the user fill out or, get them to the next step. What's the best process in doing that? But there's things that you can, other than just, oh, did they buy? No, about the form. Did we get them their information into sales and like follow up and remark them and whatnot? So there's a lot of things that do that are trying to reach these KPIs and these marketing goals that or client goals, for example. But we can really get into that process before we even start thinking about testing things. We're looking at quantitative data. We're looking at qualitative data, depending on what we need to do, what we need to get the user to do. And my whole thing is, I like to marry the two. I like to say like, UX and CRO are kind of like cousins or whatever it may be. They don't do exactly the same thing, but they kind of work well together because, I mean, you're looking at wanting to make the process easier for a user to complete a goal. So isn't that the whole like goal of UX, is to make people happy and get them to do what they want to do? So it's kind of pairing it with your goals with their goals and how you can increase those goals in the long run.
Okay, so just for the people who are watching live, they're saying that the stream is still a little bit blipping. So what I've done as of about a minute ago, I pressed the record button on my computer. So hopefully, unless I have another monster crash, we will at least have a local copy of this and I can put it on YouTube in case the YouTube version is blippy. So I apologize to Shannon that she's joining us on a technically ugly day. But we will make it through.
It's been a day. fine.
Yeah, you've had a day, and the funny thing is, we were originally going to do this for you to test drive speaking live, and now we've had crazy crap happen, and you can say, okay, if I can live through that crazy crap day, I can do my talk live. So when I think about conversion rate and a conversion rate optimization, I often think very much about the metrics and the numbers, and X% of people did this, and this people did this. But you also said just now that there's qualitative data or qualitative research to it as well. Can you tell us what type of what type of information do we normally have in addition to X% of people spent Y dollars?
Sure. I think when I've done it in the past and when I think about it, there's a lot of opportunity to use things that marketing might have on hand. So you might have marketing personas that you can use to kind of identify the type of people that you want to talk to and test this product with. So usually as their idea of who the customer is, you can kind of go off and build off of that and create your own UX if need be. Maybe you find something different along the lines of what they're thinking the actual customers are, who they might be. From there you can people user testing or moderated testing or unmoderated testing, whatever you need to do to get them to give you a feel of on a site or page or an app. That's the more qualitative area of things that can do users or whatever it may be, and get their feedback on things that you might not get to see in the quantitative data side of things, in GA like X and whatnot, to kind of figure out where they came from, who they saw, high level overview, and then trying to really optimize the page based on those data metrics. We have qualitative data to say, are we reaching, does the copy relate to this person? Do we need to make separate landing pages for different types of personas? And from there you can kind of say, okay, this page is doing well, but can we do better? Can we serve that persona information that we have now? Can we put a test against one another and see if one actually does better than the other? So there's other data that we can do that's more quantitative. I kind of say that heat mapping is kind of like a mix between both, but I still say it's quantitative versus qualitative. So.
I think so too, but that can just be our opinions. You're getting some happy birthday messages in the chat, so everybody is wishing you well. Yeah, and thanks to everybody who's putting up with some of our stream blippiness today. I know Shannon's audio is blipping a little bit for me. I don't know if everyone's getting it as well, but again, we will power through. Another thing that when I think about conversion rate optimization, sometimes I think of it as marketing wants to make people do a thing, and it may or may not be what the people want to do. So when we try to put our UX hats on here, is there anything we can do that will help us sometimes convince marketing or the business or other people that's not the right thing to optimize for or shoot for because we think people want to do something else?
Right. Yeah, that's definitely, I think it all comes down to the data. I think anything that you gather and you can show, like, this is what users are doing now. These are the things that we need to focus on this page that really matter. And go back to them and ask, why are you focusing on this metric? For example, I've run into a lot where a stakeholder will say, well, we need more page views on this page. We need to do whatever we can to increase page views. Okay, page views doesn't necessarily equal conversions. Yeah.
Show me the money.
It may be a more and you may be spending more advertising dollars without a payoff. So you're looking at why would the page view? I mean, unless you're running AdSense ads or something like that, where you're going to make money back. Why would page views matter to you? Oh, well, we want to get the brand out there. We want the impression and whatnot. Okay, well, we can increase page views, but let's focus on what the goal of this page is. What do we want them to do? And is this what they're doing now? Is this what they want to do when they get here? It could be one of those things where you find a landing page is literally just answering a question that might pop up in Google that they might search or something like that. Well, they're not there to actually buy something. They just answer a question. So maybe we're not using the right wording on this page to attract people who actually want to buy. And we can change the page's goals and everything around it to kind of suit our needs as far as the business goals. But maybe we still have pages out there that suit our users' needs. If even if they don't end up becoming a customer or whatever it may be.
Okay, good point. Yeah, that we have to build for what the customers need, even if it doesn't, provide a stakeholder with happy dreams. You've mentioned KPIs a few times. Just for the audience members who aren't familiar with KPIs, can you tell us what those are and what they sometimes, what does that stand for, and what are they sometimes even doing in our world?
Sure. So a KPI is a key performance indicator, and it's usually a measurement that a business or client or whoever your scenario is kind of uses to measure success. Was your return on investment worth it? Did it work? Did you get a return on investment type of thing? So kind of setting, it's basically just, in a nutshell, it's a goal. And you want to kind of cater that goal to the page of that goal, around that goal. So whatever you want them to do should reflect what your KPI is. So like I said, it could be filling out a form. We want 300 form conversions a month. Okay, great. So now I can measure that and say, how did I perform at the end of the month? Did we get more than that? Yes. Where are we not hitting the mark as far as a number wise, and what can we do to get there if we can get there?
Okay, thank you. Hey, does anybody have any other questions? I'm going to keep throwing questions at Shannon, but this is for everybody. If you have questions on conversion rates, metrics, maybe even a little bit of marketing, it sounds like Shannon might know these things. So your questions are free and available. And of course, if you don't mind a little bit of technical difficulties, won't you please subscribe here on the YouTube channel and press like, especially for Shannon's birthday, and join our Slack channel. And of course, the tip jar is open. Today we'll put it towards the internet bill. So thank you very much for that. And you're getting more happy birthday wishes and lovely comments and applause from people over on the LinkedIn channel. Tarina is giving you applause and some other people. So thanks to everybody and Flavio. So thanks to everybody who's dropping by. So I'm trying to think more about conversion rates. I'm wondering how we can get UX more involved in this when so often this has been the realm of marketing. Does marketing want us involved in their CRO? How can we wedge ourselves in there?
That's a really, really good question. I think it's kind of depends on the company too and the culture that you have surrounding you. But I will say that where I work now, Overdrive, my manager built a UX team, and it's UI designers, we have developers, and then we have analysts. And basically, it was like we came in there kind of nobody was touching anything as far as UX goes, as far as our marketing pages and landing pages and things like that. So we just had to kind of prove ourselves. So we had to show that we knew things about data that nobody else was sharing with them. We have a whole nother business unit that's, they're very busy people. And I don't think anybody expected them to just say, hey, how's this page performing? Can you tell us more about it, type of thing. So like now it's like we have these people on our team that are capable of saying, yeah, we can answer these questions for you. We can help improve these pages for you, not just from, let's say, a design standpoint, but just from the conversion standpoint. Like maybe there's something that we're not hitting the mark here. You guys are focused on design, which is great, making things look nice, but sometimes nice things don't convert. So, so I say that, like, in my experience, if you want to get into UX, this is good for like junior people or people who are interested in UX. I think a good path to get into a company, to get to have experience, to get into more UX related job would be a CRO job. If you can kind of learn a little bit of the marketing side of things and squeeze into a marketing team somewhere, learn like how to read metrics and strategize and things like that, then you can eventually, like me, evolve into a UX team where you're using not only your data, but you're learning all this other stuff on the job too. It may be something where your company doesn't see the value in data as much right away, and you start showing them these CRO measurements and things like that you're doing, and proving that, hey, we can improve this by so much if we do this, and that. That could be a good way to start a UX team at your company, especially if you don't have one.
Yeah, that's a good point, that sometimes there is no UX team and people don't know why they need one, but when they start seeing things that don't convert and they throw more SEO at it and it's still not converting, then of course we have to ask ourselves, what else can we do here? It's not all answered by more SEO.
Exactly. And I think it's being smart about things. It's like looking at your marketing channels and saying, we're spending a lot of money on these paid advertisements, or we're really constantly optimizing our SEO. We should optimize SEO, don't get me wrong, but we're spending all this time and we're not really hitting the mark. How can we improve these things? How can we get more people to not only come to our site or our page, but to submit a form or buy something from us? It's for me, it was exciting to see being able to change, not change, but help improve those numbers. We had people who were, especially at the agency, we have people who are focused on, paid advertising, and they know everything that there is to know about display and just any kind of marketing on Google and et cetera, which is great. But it's like, if we don't have a page for them to land on that's well optimized either, and people are going to like using and they find useful, then, you're just throwing dollars out the door,
So true. I've got two questions written down that I'm burning to ask, but we've got a question from the LinkedIn chat, so I'm going to ask that first. And Solomon, friend of the show, good to see you, though I don't know what you look like because your LinkedIn avatar is a smiley face, says, balancing user needs with business needs. Does the challenge differ depending upon the service or product that the business offers? And I just realized my question could be simply answered yes or no, but so maybe we can just expand maybe on how some of our conversion rate attempts might differ based on products and services.
Sure. When I worked in an agency, I had so many different types of client base. I mean, we had a lot of manufacturers and industrial type of companies that were different from some of our e-commerce based clients and whatnot. So the answer is, I think, yes. It's gonna differ. It's gonna be different, as far as they'll say, okay, the business needs and the user needs are going to be definitely different. I think, having gone through and kind of worked with these different types of clients, I do find that you do find that user needs are sometimes different than what your business goals are. For example, some people, there was a fencing site, I should say. There's a fencing site, and people wanted to be able to go online and measure out their fence for their yard, and get a quote instantly for putting a fence around their house. Okay, well, the only way that we could do it on this site was to kind of build something that would allow them to click and drag and be kind of interactive, but the company itself didn't want people to instantly get a quote. So people online, they wanted to get a quote instantly, and so they wouldn't have to talk to a salesperson. But sales wanted calls, and that was the other thing. That was like, of all the things, they wanted calls. They didn't want people to submit anything and give their information. So at the end of the day, the client wasn't necessarily happy because the amount of calls went down. But I said, hey, your website submissions are up like 300% this month. Look what we did to improve that. Right. Oh, well, sales isn't happy because they're not getting calls. So your business goals can definitely, be different than your users' goals. So it's just trying to convince whomever you need to, stakeholders, clients, whatever it is, that this is the goal people really want, and you're trying to force them to do this. Why don't we try to make this easier and see how it goes first?
It's a great point. I worked on a website in the year 2000 for a used camera dealer, and he used to like email out a list of his used cameras, and they were in seemingly no order. It's just the endless, ugliest list you could imagine in the year 2000. And we wanted to bring that onto his website, and we made it searchable. And he actually found that his sales went down once it was searchable because you thought you were making it better for the user. But it turned out the user loved to scan through the entire list of used cameras for sale, and they were more likely then to kind of impulse buy something they weren't even looking for. And so it's an kind of a moment where you remember that just because I think I can make something easier for someone doesn't mean it's actually what they want. We've got a question from Flavio, and we still didn't get to my two questions. So let's see. Flavio says,
Hi, Flavio.
yes, everyone's now friends from the chat room. Where do you see the intersection of marketing and UX objectives? Do you see them collaborating, or the areas are kind of reluctant to hold hands? Can we be friends with marketing finally?
I think so. Like I said, it's kind of like one of those things you gotta squeeze yourself in. I think, they have their own goals. Our UX team, our own goals too. I mean, we're obviously focused more on users and making sure that they're happy with the process and they're going through it and we're not getting stuck and whatnot. I mean, it really does depend on, I think, where your industry and where you work, and I think, and how developed, your marketing team is versus your UX team. Like I said, I'm on a young UX team. We're only like about 3 years old, and prior to, I don't know who was doing these type of optimization tactics and whatnot, or just looking at qualitative UX research. So but once they kind of see the information that it goes from, oh, well, we thought people were doing this, or we thought wanted this, but it's really interesting what you're saying. And now that we know, oh man, we need to change our phrasing, and we need to fix it so it's better for these people too. And so a good example is, we were at Overdrive. We're catering to many different type of clients, clientele partners, I guess you could say. We serve the library industry, the public library industry, and then we have a K-12 industry. And on some of our resource sites that we have, we use the terms marketing and outreach for library, because that's pretty straightforward. They have outreach programs that get people to come to the library and whatnot. And obviously marketing is marketing. But we had the same wording in the K-12 section of the site. And we found that after doing some testing and looking at numbers and interviewing people who were in the space, teachers, K-12 teachers, were saying, oh, hey, I don't know what this marketing and outreach tab is.
Right.
This doesn't pertain to me. I'm going to avoid this altogether. So we took that back to the marketing and said, look, change the wording on this, in a way that they could use it, especially teachers, because it's, the materials are for teachers to get kids reading more. So we ended up just changing it simply to promote reading to students, or get students reading. Like, we use wording like that across, right, across the site then. And look at that, conversions, downloads, the things we were focused on increased because teachers knew where to go then, because I can promote this to my students. Like, I know exactly where I'm going. So I think it's just kind of showing people slowly. I mean, it's going to take time sometimes. You got to really weave your way into the marketing side of things and say, look, your data's good. This data's good. Let's just work together to make it all, we're both hitting our goals, I think. And I think more than not, people are more reluctant to say, okay, we'll give this a try at least.
Got it. We've got a question from Dimitris, which I can't help but think might be a little bit more for me, but Shannon, you are welcome to take this one if you have an opinion. It says, isn't it time to stop having different goals between departments of the same company? Shouldn't we grow up and start working together instead of measuring our importance? Do you have a reaction to that or a thought on that?
I agree. I think be a collective experience or a collective, goal. I think, we do need to grow up. I think silos are so bad and they're everywhere. And there you work, I think, unless, you're really just trying to destroy them in your own company if you own a business. But, I think it definitely needs to get away from, our goals, your goals. It's a collective thing. And I think especially where I'm working, people are starting to realize, I think, we need to focus more on, what our users are doing. And we're a team. We should be holding hands, kumbaya.
Go throw the hearts up there for that. Yeah, and as for me, my only response there would be yes to everything Shannon said, but I think that while people don't understand UX and they seem to have no idea what we do, and while they don't always include us and things, and we're not held accountable, in some ways we still have to kind of demonstrate our importance. So I really hope we'll get past that soon, because you're right. Our time is better spent than trying to prove to our coworkers that we're respectable. I would like to shift.
I still have a hard time like showing people like they don't get what I do. Like even people on my team are like, "Wow, Shannon focuses on all these different metrics and tests and how we can do this." And I think there's still a lot of I think it has to do with my goal not being correctly aligned with what I do, but then it also has to do with people generally like, well, I don't know how you do what you do or why you do what you do, but it's really cool what you do.
I'm going to let you do it. I have a question. So everyone, if you have questions, keep asking them. We're here about another 25 minutes. Sorry about some of the stream blipping. I think it's my internet today, so please point at me. Boyfriend, please call the internet company. So he'll hear that in about 20 seconds. And so one of my questions that I wrote on my notes here were CRO and pop-ups. Pop-ups are definitely straight from the devil, and they seem to be the beloved baby of marketing, who thinks that if you want to get a customer to do something, we just have to pop it up and say, join our mailing list. Isn't there any CRO or intervention or something that can try to explain to marketing that the number one thing people want to do right now on this site is not join the mailing list? How do we tell marketing that this is a crappy interception?
I have to do with looking at data. I mean, if more times than not you have people bouncing off of your site versus or clicking out, closing the pop-up, then filling it out. I mean, that's obviously that goal of getting people up for your newsletter. If your conversions on that are low versus them closing it out or leaving your site, I mean, that's the metric that you need to present to them and say, like, look, they're not enjoying this experience. No, I don't. I mean, like, I'm one of those people. It's like, do you personally like going to a site? Within 10 seconds, you're getting popped up with, it's like, it's one of those things. It's like showing them, look, it's not necessarily like the intrusiveness of this is not a great experience. Yes, it gets it in their face, but I mean, let's look at the data. Let's see what it says versus, could we be getting more? I mean, unless your offer is like dynamite, like you're going to get 80% off your first order or something, it's going to be one of those things that we can test these things too. We can, instead of having it intrusive pop up automatically, we could, something in the corner that says, looking for some, some discounts or something like that. And we could have it pop up, or, there's always that exit intent too. I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, depending on the industry. And like I said, the offer has to be good. I mean, the headline has to be bold. You have to be able to catch them real quick in order to get them to fill that out too. So there are other methods than that. I mean, just having something static in the footer of your site could be more optimized and convert better than having something that's just right in your face and is annoying people. I think it's one of those things. It's like, if you find it, don't you think other people find it annoying?
And even without that, I'm always imagining that marketing is looking at every metric except the ones UX is like, please look at how many people closed out the pop-up or bounced off the page. And I always imagine marketing ignored that and said like, hey, we got 2 signups today. This is successful.
Right. And I think it also depends on, like we were saying earlier, what defines success for us? Is it what's that KPI? Is it getting a sign up a day? Is it getting 20 sign ups a day? Is it getting a 2,000 signups a day?
And are you tracking, sorry
what,
to interrupt, but I'm just on fire with this. Are you even tracking how much money you're making because of your mailing list? Everybody always seems to love signups and they opened the email and maybe they clicked on a thing. Did you sell anything? And how many people
right.
unsubscribed? Is anybody watching these metrics?
Right. Yeah, I think that's great thing to follow up with. I think that comes down to like looking at your full marketing funnel there too. Not only did you get the sign up, but what does the journey look like after they sign up? What do they get immediately? What are they doing afterwards? Are they just getting the
Right.
coupon and then like you said, unsubscribing immediately afterwards? You have to look at all that stuff to kind of make better decisions on how to, implement better tactics, I guess is the right word. I hate to
Yep.
use the word tactics because but it is a tactic.
It is a tactic.
Yeah.
I support you. And Darren is here, though, in his UX Uncensored hat. So everyone follow him on YouTube at UX Uncensored. And he says UX will help marketing learn about avoiding annoyance thresholds. So that's a
Yep.
good idea. That's definitely a place where we can hopefully check and balance marketing. So thank you, Darren, in your other persona, if that's the right word. And people keep asking your questions. I have another one that I'm on fire about, and I want your opinion on this. On a project I worked on in the last few years, so I won't tell you who it is. I was on this company's website and I started noticing that a page layout looked different than the last time I was on that page. So I started opening up that page in every browser I had, in regular browser and in incognito browser. And by the time I was done opening the same page, I think I had seen 6 to 8 variations of it. And it looked like this wasn't an A/B test. I was convinced it was an A, B, C, D, E, F, G test at the same time. This seemed a little bit strange. This seemed like we are just going to keep throwing darts at this until we see the one that does the best. Have you seen that? Does that tend to work better or worse than A/B test this thing and then take the winner and A/B test another thing? What do you tend to suggest for that, hey, we have 8 different designs, let's see which one's the best?
I guess it really depends on the amount of traffic you have to your site too. But I mean, I don't think I've ever run more than like maybe 3 pages against each other at once. I
So
think it was
ABC.
more of a ABC or yeah. And I like to think of it as something like that. I would say it would have to be a complete split test. You're not just, testing one different element on a page against another. Your headline's different on this page, and this page. That would be ABC test. I mean, if you're going to a site and like the whole thing's almost completely different, or like you said, like you had, 10 different versions of the same page or whatever, but it's, it's got the same goal, but it's just completely looks different. Each one that's a very extreme split test, I would say. And it does depend on the amount of traffic, but I don't think it's a good way to approach it. I think you can look at things and say, okay, we have our original, this is our control, and we want to make a different version because we're seeing this, and that, and the metrics, or we've heard this, and that from users. Get some ideas of things you want to test. You don't necessarily have to test it all against each other at once. What you can do is start by improving, some elements on the page against one another. Is it the headline? Okay, let's test this and the image. Okay, we're going to change this up. Okay, we're going to, add different color to this button, really make it pop off the page, and some of this text is going to change, So gathering a list of things you want to test, but you don't necessarily have to test it all at once. I think it's almost, in my opinion, I've had better success doing kind of grouping of tests at a time. Once you figure out, does the control do better than your variant? Okay, we're going to keep the control and test that against a new variant. And is that working better? Okay, the variance now, the new control. Okay, new control. Now we're going to test it against this. I think it's good to always kind of try to keep improving things, because what you think you're doing that's like hitting the nail on the head the first time around isn't necessarily right. I think iteration design can be done. I just think it has to be smart and thought out. And I think it can be a little overkill at times if you're doing 6 to 10 tests all at once for the same page. So, and something like that, I would think, depending on, unless you're getting millions and millions of views on that page, I would think that something like that's going to take a long time to test. Just knowing how things work with like Google Optimize 360 or VWO, the platforms. Sometimes it takes a while, depending on, I'll get sites that have like 2,000 visitors a month, and that test is going to be running for 6 months because it can't,
Right.
the algorithm or whatever it is can't figure out which one's the burning one, off the bat or whatever type of thing. So it'll be like, well, we still need more traffic. Now, if you've got like 6 million, visitors a week or whatever it is, then by all means, maybe you have the capacity to run those kind of tests against each other. But I don't know. You're still dividing your traffic. You have to split up your traffic. And I've always been a believer of like the 50-50. Let's see what 50% of people do here. Let's see what 50% of people do here. It doesn't necessarily mean that, just because one pulls over, it just could be a certain sample group of people that went to that one version, and that just happens to be the better conversion. Okay, well, let's just keep that one as a control, and then let's try a different test. So I think it's almost overkill to do so many tests at once. That's just my opinion, though.
I thought it was out there. Let's put up a comment we have from the always awesome Larry Marine. And he says, users go through a predictable flow. 1, expand their knowledge. 2, prioritize. 3, narrow the choices. 4, buy now. 5, service after the sale. Forcing the buy now too soon interrupts that decision flow. So would you say that that's kind of a variation or a version of what we typically think of as the funnel?
Yeah, absolutely. I think your funnel can have a different type of conversion goal too. There's, like you said, right off the bat, you're having an awareness phase. You're just giving information just enough to like get that cookie and get them tracked and see, who clicked through on what, and seeing what they're doing on that page. Did they convert? Did they not? Maybe there's, the next stage is you have a consideration phase where you're showing different types of information and whatnot. The goal on that page could be to get them to watch the video or to actually fill out a thing, put their email in. Maybe we can remarket them. Yeah.
I'm just being subtle while you talk. Go ahead.
And I agree. I think it's definitely a marketing funnel in that sense. And I think there's, we talk about buyer's journey or user journeys and marketing funnels. I think there's they intermix there. There's things that we want them to do, but then there's also things that they're going to do on their own anyways. So you can always use that data, that like what they're doing on their own, to kind of develop your marketing funnel. Maybe we're pushing this too much on them. Maybe we need to give them a little bit more time to think about it and marinate. So
yeah, hopefully that's something that's being tracked. Another question that I had, and again, if you have questions, everybody, ask now, because we've only got about 10 or 15 minutes left. So get your questions in. A question I had related to an article I wrote on Medium. If anyone's interested, Google for it. And I said, your metrics are myopic. And I talked about how very often conversion rate, at least in my opinion, is a little bit short-sighted. Did we make the sale? How many sales did we make? And I feel like people are missing the opportunity to kind of track behavior and experiences over a longer arc. You made a sale. Mm-hmm. Did you have more returns? Did you have more customer support tickets? Did you have worse ratings? Did you have more complaints? Did you have something else happen later? Was there fallout or shrapnel that was negative? Congratulations on your more sales, but did it lead to like exponentially more garbage? Is there anything in place now in CRO that would kind of account for my my little model or my little universe there, or is it still very much a one metric, one moment kind of capture?
I mean, in my experience, I think a lot of that it's focused on that metric and that experience moment type of thing. I think with UX though, that's when you can look at that overarching kind of experience as a whole. Right now, I'm kind of struggling with something like that at my job. We're trying to get people to, these schools to sign up with us and start using our platform so that we can give kids free ebooks to read. But the metrics for me stop at Google Analytics. Did they convert? Do we have conversion? Great. I don't know down the line, did the salespeople follow up with this person that's,
Did they ever
that
use the
converted?
system? Did the kids read the ebooks?
What questions did they have, even though they submitted their name or whatnot? Did they have other questions we weren't answering? Did we get them to sign up? Did we get our ROI? Was there, all this time that we invested in all these people to develop these pages in this funnel? So it's one of those things that's like I'm struggling with right now, is being able to access that data that, so I can say, okay, this was good for us. Our ROI was, good, whatever it may be. I don't necessarily know what those conversion dollars look like down the line, but I don't need to know who did what. I just need to know, did we get some final signups for this or partner based off of this? So it's, I think with CRO, sometimes it is you're only focused on that one goal, whereas other people probably have the other data that you may need. But I think that's like, we can obviously do in the beginning of that whole funnel process that we were talking about, using user data to get our better details about how we can better serve people. And even if, if your job says, okay, you're a CRO specialist and conversion stuff, boom, there. I can say, we got different fields, filled out or whatever. I did my job, but like at the end of the day, like me, I might be like, well, that's not good enough. I want to know if sales followed up and we got the, official type of thing. So I do think it can be kind of boxed in as far as your it goes, as, your end result type of thing. It's like, kind of depends on who you are, and I guess how much authority you have too in the business.
And by the way, Flavio's picking on you. He says you must have been faking shyness. So.
Oh, I'm not shy. I talk plenty. That's what I was going to want to get some of those like music, wrap up the speech, and wrap her up off the stage.
I don't have that. I should get that. That's great. I should get the wrap it up song. Yeah. We've got a comment. Yeah, we've got a comment from Larry. He's got a couple of comments. So this is one, and he's got another one after this. It says, A/B testing invites a local maxima bias. I start by accurately redefining the problem, creating a best practice model of the flow, and then compare each design option to that flow model. Ooh, deep. Any thoughts on that? I would never, I'm not going to go against the great Larry Marine. Your turn, Shannon. You tell him he's wrong.
No, I think that's perfect. I mean, I think that's exactly what I would say that I'm kind of doing now. We kind of get in our head that, this is how we have to do this, and this is how we're going to design it, blah, 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 blah. But when it comes down to like finding out details and stuff like that, I kind of like to revert and say, okay, what can we do to really fix this up and make it better? I mean, I think you really have to customize, the experience around, every type of path that you have there. So kudos to Larry.
Always. Larry also says, I agree that holistic KPIs are much better. Wouldn't that help get everyone on the same page, each department working towards the holistic objective? That kind of echoes what Demetrius was saying earlier. So, and we agreed with Demetrius at the time. So I don't think we're going to fight Larry too much on this one. But can you give us an example, just in case I missed it or people joining late missed it? Like, what's the difference between a crappy KPI and a better, more holistic KPI?
Oh, I might be blanking on that one.
Yeah, gotcha.
I guess it got me. I guess more holistic would be, how does it benefit everybody versus is it just dollars? Me is just crappy. Like I get like, and like I said, I worked in an agency and it is about making money for the customer or the client or whatever. It comes down to the end of the day is they want to know if they made more money, which is, but I think holistically, if we're talking about user experience as a whole and how we can use CRO in user experience, be focused on making sure that experience getting them through the conversion was a good one. It was useful. It was what they wanted. It was easy. It was, we're not, I think if we can kind of pair those things that like, okay, we know you need to make money, but if ultimately, if you're making the experience better for somebody, you're more likely to get more money because you made it better. What's that quote about like, if you think good design is expensive, just look at how bad design is, expensive bad design is. So
Larry says things like that all the time.
Yep.
So true, so true. Cost of poor quality, as I would say, which we had an episode on last year. Look it up in the live stream podcast episodes playlist, where this will soon end up archived. So if anybody misses any of these, if they have numbers, they are in the live stream podcast episodes playlist. You can always find them. Demetrius has another good question, and this reminds me of another one we did in the past. We actually did a podcast months and months ago on vanity metrics, but Demetrius has a question now. How about strategic versus vanity metrics? Did you have any examples of which are vanity metrics, often not useful for a company or maybe not actionable, versus metrics that are more likely to play into our strategy and be more actionable?
Well, yeah, I think it goes back to like what I was saying about that person being focused on page views. It's like, for a page that didn't have anything that would gain any monetary value from page views, I think that's just like a vanity metric. We got so many users to the site. Well, yeah, I mean, I know you want to get more users to the site, but I think the metric that matters more is we have things like click events and those conversion goals that we can set up in GA. Those that we can have some kind of like quantitative number around and whatnot. I think and that it's focused around goal. I just don't think page views is a great goal to measure. I think to me, and then it's like, you can use demographics and stuff and like Google Analytics to kind of get an idea of who's coming to your unsampled and 100% accurate. And in some cases, doesn't matter depending on the industry you're in. So, yes, I agree. I think there needs to be, strategic things that we're looking at this strategically versus just looking at numbers. And I think sometimes people say, okay, bounce rates can be really important depending on what you're trying to do. And bounce rates could be not important depending, maybe your page immediately answers a question. So your bounce rates are high. You didn't even have to scroll to get to the answer. And in that case, that it should be coming up in Google's, SERPs anyways, displayed in the schema. But yeah, I think that it's definitely better to focus on things strategically and making it an overall better experience than it is just to focus on hitting a number.
Yeah, thank you for that. And another thing that I say, and I wrote about this in my Delta CX book, was I think another one that's often a vanity metric even that people think is so fantastic is time on the page. And I think that, like you said earlier, if you are running an advertising-based site, then you tend to want time on the page because you get to serve up ads or whatever you're trying to do that really makes you the money. If you are trying to streamline somebody's experience and get them through a process efficiently or quickly, time on page might be better lower. That's the winning metric rather than higher. So to me, being strategic about metrics is thinking them through from the user's or customer's perspective and trying to figure out, is a high time on the page good or a low time on the page good? Which one signals a problem and which one signals success? You want to add to that?
Yeah. Well, I would piggyback off of that, going back to the whole, like, that page views metric. I think, like, one of the things that's, like, we're focused on is overall site page views needs to be up, year over year. Okay, well, just because you have more page views doesn't necessarily, is it, maybe unique page views are more important, but page views overall, I mean, you could have a site that you go to one page and then you go to another page and then you go to another page, and you're just kind of constantly going through like these different like areas on your site, but you're not necessarily answering the questions. That's going to increase your page views. But, and somebody might go back to a page to find another link or something that's not
right. It implies they're lost.
They're lost, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's good. So, I mean, I would rather certainly have a lower time on page and less page views if we got them to do what we want them to do, and it was easy for them, so.
That reminds me of a time I was working on a project years ago, and we were using 4C to, not sponsored, to track some of, to take some videos of people moving around the site. And people, because the information architecture in the navigation was bad, very often people would arrive on a page and then not be sure how to go somewhere else and find what they were looking for. And when we watched these videos, we literally saw people making circles with their mouse as if they were their own spinner, because they were trying to figure out what to do now because the site was so badly designed. And my thought was, that's going to register as high time on a page, and maybe someone is going to celebrate that. But ultimately, that was a huge demonstration of failure.
All right. Yeah, I agree.
There you go, story time. We're down to our last few minutes. I want to apologize to everybody again for the technical difficulties today. They seem to be mostly my fault. I'm so sorry that my internet has been blippy today. I promise to reboot it before tomorrow's office hours Ask Me Anything. Shannon, you've been a great sport about the blippy internet. Thank you so much. And I'm going to quickly mention to some people some upcoming shows, and then we'll have Shannon tell us where we can follow her and stalk her before we say goodbye. So remember, just a couple of show notes. Tomorrow's office hours Ask Me Anything. I'll be here. I hope you will too. Wednesday is going to be a podcast with Chad, who's going to talk about his not great experience going to a boot camp. And I'm very proud of him, since most people don't want to talk about that, and they should. Monday, February 1st is going to be Ask Amy Santee Anything. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. Tuesday, February 2nd is Office Hours Ask Me Anything. Wednesday, February 3rd is Nick Grantham, who is a UX recruiter, is going to give everybody some tips from the perspective of a UX recruiter. Monday, February 8th, please mark your calendars. I'm going to debut my apprenticeship model, the thing I've been stumbling through for the last 6 months. Come learn about that. Tuesday the 9th, Office Hours Ask Me Anything. Wednesday the 10th, there will not be a live stream, because if you are part of our Slack workspace, we're going to have our first live networking event on AirMeet. So join the Slack yeah, I'll be there too. Join our Slack channel at deltacx.link/join Slack. It's totally free, and come for the live networking. Monday, February 15th, Sean McSharry will be joining us for UX and Autism, as he is an autistic person. Tuesday the 16th, Office Hours Ask Me Anything. Wednesday the 17th, the always fantastic Darren Hood will be back to talk about holding UX accountable. And then there's even more on that. So everybody, especially come for my comedy podcast on all of the bad job descriptions I found while writing my HR training. That'll be later in February. And Larry is saying used car sales reps have a 28% sales rates. Why do companies accept a 3% sales rate when 99% of their visitors come to their site looking for their solution? That is 10 times worse than a used car sales rep. So, can't fight Larry and his numbers. Oop.
Yeah.
Oops, I messed that up.
There you go.
Go ahead.
I'd say most sites aren't as pushy and intrusive as, unless you're pop-ups we were talking about earlier, as a salesman, like a car salesman type of thing. Yeah, I think, and it's one of those things. It's where you have control as the user going to a site, and I think that's what I expect. Like, oh, we need a 25% conversion rate, and I'm like, good luck. I mean, unless it's like something a lot of people absolutely need, like bread or something like that. Here's bread. This is the only place you can get it. Here, take my 20. I can definitely convert more people that way. I think it's a competitive landscape out there regardless, So
Yeah, and we have a great comment from Ahmad in the LinkedIn chat saying, I was looking into a product, Google Analytics. I agree, 7 minutes on the login page with 5 million monthly page views is bad. 7 minutes on the login page with 5. That is funny. Thank you for the comedy. That hurts.
To me, that sounds like an issue with like people trying to log in and not being able to get in. That's to me, that's what that sounds like. Just not seeing the numbers. So
ding, 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 ding. I think that's what he's saying. So we're going to have to wrap up. Thank you again for being here and putting up with my technical blips, but tell everybody, where can they find you? Are you a tweeter, a LinkedIner, an Instagrammer? Where can we stay in touch with you?
I'm on LinkedIn. You can just find me, Shannon Kelly. I'm connected to you, Debbie, so you can probably find me through her connections on there. I'm also on the Delta CX Slack channel, so if you want to hit me up on there and just chat, I can always redirect you to connecting on LinkedIn too. That's my main 2 areas right now.
Me too. All right. Well, then I'm going to play us out of here with, again, my apologies for the internet blips, but thanks to everybody for your patience and sticking around. Thanks to Larry and Demetrius and Darren and everybody, Flavio, for dropping by. And Flavio says, bye, bleepers. I don't know what that means. Do you have an in-joke with him or something? Did we bleep something? No. So thanks to everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow for Office Hours Ask Me Anything. Delta CX, available for CX and UX consulting, projects, and training. Contact us for a free consultation.